All right, next up, we're going to learn how to import XLSX files or Excel files. Now, with importing CSVs and text files, we were able to use these functions, read.csv and read.table, that are part of base R. They're already installed. You don't need anything else. But Excel files aren't already importable in R without an additional package. So a package is something, an add-on to the software that somebody has created to do something that wasn't originally a part of it. So we're going to install this package called readxl. The code to do that is install.packages and then readxl in quotation marks. That installs it to your computer or to R. And then library, and then doing that name readxl not in quotation marks. What that does is it activates the package. It makes it ready for use. Before we look at the rest of this code, let's jump over to RStudio and do that. Now, I mentioned I like to have a section at the top where I activate my needed packages. So I'm going to do that up here. Install.packages readxl. This package is needed to import XLSX files. XLSX files. I like to have those all at the top just to have them in one place, so I know what packages I'm using in the entire script. Now, installing it, I only need to have this once. I'm going to comment this out because it gets annoying to reinstall the package every time I go to use it. I only just need to activate it in the future. Now, if you remember from the Meet R videos, you've got your pane over here of all the different packages, and if there's a check mark on it, it's been activated, meaning it's ready to use. So if I scroll down in this, we're going to find the readxl package. And you'll see there's not a check mark right there. Now I could just check that box, but the function library, it activates it for me. So I just processed line 23, ran that code, and now I have a check mark there. That means it's ready to use that function or that package. If I try to use a function from a package that hasn't been activated, it's not going to be able to use it because I haven't turned it on, essentially. I haven't flipped the switch. So let's put a code here, a note here. This activates the readxl package so that we can use its functions to import XLSX data. Okay, so I've got that there. I'm going to collapse that. Let's collapse that one too. Let's go ahead and make a header. Import XLSX files. All right, so that's the package. We get that installed. The next is we have two options of how this is going to go with importing an Excel file. We're going to specify some data name, whatever we want to call it, do into. The function is read_excel. We're going to specify what that name of that file is that's in our working directory. And here we don't have to say file equals like we did with read.table and read.csv. That's just like a little grammar difference between these functions. But the second half of this is where it's really important with Excel files. We have to specify what sheet. Now, to demonstrate that, let's jump back over to the working directory, and I've got one here that we're going to import. So it's called import.xlsx. Now, the thing about Excel files versus a CSV or a text file is that Excel files are built to be like these, they call them workbooks, where you have this whole file and then you've got multiple sheets within that file. So I've got one down here called import, I've got one called another sheet, We could have another one over here called sheet 1. We could have sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. Right? We could have a bunch of different sheets, and all these sheets could have their own data. So when we import an Excel file, an XLSX, it needs to know which of those sheets it's actually going to be importing. I'm going to close well, let's not close it yet. Let's jump back over to, so that's what we're specifying here. When it says sheet equals, we're saying which one are we going to import. And you have two options. You can specify its order. So if I put 1, it's going to import the first sheet, or if I put 2, it's going to import the second sheet. But honestly, that option is not the best way to do this. Really, the second one here is the better, where I specify the name of that sheet. The reason I prefer to specify the name is, let's say I'm working on a project collaboratively, and I told it I want this data right here, this sheet called import. And I say sheet number 1, but I'm working collaboratively with somebody and they reorder those sheets. So now another sheet is in order 1, or maybe it's sheet number 1. It imports now in the third space. It's the third sheet, the third tab there. It's going to then import whichever one is in the first place, but I want it to import this one every time. So if I do it by its name, it will always import that one regardless of what order it's in. So I'm going to close this and not save it, but we want to import that one called import. So let's jump over to here to RStudio. So we've already installed the package, Read Excel, we've activated it. Let's call this import XL. Let's just call it XLSX. XLSX. And the function, into, excuse me, read underscore Excel. And in quotation marks, what was that file called? It was called import.xlsx, and I'm going to copy and paste that name over, and then we need to do sheet equals, and we wanted to do the import one. So let's run that, and there you go. That's the import one. Just for the fun of it, let's change it to sheet 2. If you remember, there's another one called like another tab or something like that. And that's what was on that second sheet. But we wanted the import. And again, using the name, I'd say that's more stable. It's less likely to be impacted by somebody else messing with that file or doing something to it. Let's make a note here. Make sure to specify. Okay, that's it. Next up, we're going to learn how to import SPSS files.